Students, this is Miss Williams, and this is a submission in addition to what you've already had. We understood after we watched the video that I did that you couldn't see my hands very well, so we're going to try to redo just the very end portion and zoom into the area where I'm going to be giving the injections. We're having to do the best we can with what we have with us, as well as what you have at your home. So bear with us, and we're going to do the best that we can, okay? Let's begin with your intradermal injection. We're going to be using a hot dog. That is the best we can do. Talking to some of the other instructors, they have been using this for some time in the past as the only thing that they could do to show a wheel formation. I will tell you, it is not easy. It took me probably 1 out of 5 times every time I did it to get it to actually make a wheel. But we will do the best that we can. I'm not going to go back through the entire scenario of checking your rights, etc. I'm just going to get the syringe that has your tuberculin syringe with it, and I will be showing this up close to us instructors and slowly rotating it. You'll have to take the cap off for us to be able to see. Slowly rotate it so that we can see that you have the correct dose, the 0.1. Bring that up close so we can see. Then you're able to use your alcohol swab. Intradermal medications are given, like Miss Cusinelli's video showed, usually in the arm. But keep in mind, it can be given in other places where we use it for TB, and that is the location. But it can also be used for people that are getting tests for allergies. And on page 810 in your book, it shows the different locations where you can actually give intradermal injections. But again, for a TB skin test, it's going to be the inner forearm. You're going to locate your site, clean the area with your alcohol swab in a circular motion from the center outward. You're going to stabilize the site by stretching the skin. And you're going to go in, bevel up at a 15-degree angle. You want to pierce the skin just under the skin. And then once you're under the skin, advance it a few more millimeters. You're not going to go entirely up to the hub. Then you're going to need to stabilize. And that's where a lot of you couldn't see what I was doing, because I was stabilizing it before I turned loose to depress the plunger. So I'm going to stabilize it, move my hand, but now I'm going to move this one away where I would normally still have this here stabilizing it so that it wouldn't move and hurt the patient. Slowly depress your plunger until you have all the medication into the patient. And again, this time it didn't work. Had it worked, there would be a little lump right here. And I'll tell you, here's one that I did just a while ago. There's a little lump. If you can slightly see a little lump right there where a little pocket of fluid is. That little lump is what it should look like. Guys, we're not going to hurt you on this, but we just want to make sure you're using the correct angle and that you're telling us that it's bevel up, because it is very difficult to get this little lump that you see here to occur. Even I had difficulty. So that's how you do an intradermal injection. You would then at this point activate your needle, dispose of it in some kind of device that you're calling a biohazard box, and then you're going to circle this with a pen. You're going to initial, date and time it, and you're going to do the documentation necessary so that someone 2 to 3 days later can find that exact spot on that person's arm, tell them not to wash it off, and can look to see if there's any kind of induration that would prove that they have tuberculosis or possible tuberculosis. Okay, that's our TB. Let's move over to our glove. Let's do our insulin next. Again, you would bring the insulin pen close to the screen, rotate it so we could see the amount that you're giving and that you got the correct amount. Then, and that you have no air, then you would prep your area. With your insulin. Insulin, again, the sites are located on page 811 in your book. But the way to tell how much insulin to give is generally by the size of the patient, or what we call the 2-inch pinch method, meaning that when you're wherever the site is that you're giving this medication, usually in the abdomen, you would pinch up the abdominal skin. If you can pinch 2 inches, then that patient has enough sub-Q that you can release and actually pull down the skin and give it at a 90-degree angle in this fashion. If your patient is very small, has very little sub-Q fat, when you start to pinch up, you cannot pinch up 2 inches, then that means that this patient does not have enough sub-Q to go in at 90 degrees. You need to continue to pinch so that you can make sure that you're in the sub-Q area, and you're going to give your injection at a 45-degree angle, okay? You will be given at the top of your more the size of the patient. I think it's 170 pounds, but still you need to go through the steps of telling us pinch for 2 inches. If I see 2 inches or can get 2 inches, I'm going to spread the skin and inject at a 90-degree angle. If you tell us that no, your patient is very small and I cannot pinch, then you're going to inject at a 45-degree angle. Whatever you tell us is letting us know that you're giving it the correct way, but you have to tell us. All right. My patient is large. I was able to do 2 inches of a pinch in their abdomen. I'm going to clean starting at the center, working outward. I'm going to keep my fingers there. Pull off my cap, and I'm going to go in at a 90-degree angle. You do not have to aspirate on intradermals or sub-Q. Go directly in as a dart. That shouldn't have happened. It should have been a quicker, easier. Let me try that again. Directly in as a dart. Hold to steady. You want to place your hand along the patient's body so that you're steadying it so that it's not just totally turned loose. You have to steady your hand, and before you turn loose of the syringe, grab a hold to steady it so it's not shifting and moving and hurting your patient. And then inject slowly. Once you have injected all the medication, you're going to count to 10. This allows the medication to be absorbed and not follow the track back out. Activate and discard into your box by dropping up above and never placing it down into the box and possibly contaminating yourself or sticking yourself. Next, we're going to do our IM injection. IM injections are done differently depending on where you're going to give them. This particular scenario is the fact that it's going to be given in a large muscle. So you're going to be giving this deep with your 1.5-inch needle. And you're going to be using what's called the displacement method. Whenever you give IM injections, you do a displacement method. Find your landmarks as Ms. Cusinelli's video showed you. But once you find your landmark, you're going to use your hand to pull the skin in one direction. That's called displacement. Clean your area in the center, rotating outward. Take your cap off. And again, you're going to go in a dart fashion, 90 degrees into the skin. Once you get in, you're going to stabilize. And remember, you want to stabilize by keeping this hand here, pulled to the side so the skin is being pulled in, displacement method. You want to aspirate to make sure you see no blood. Once you've determined that, then you will inject the medication slowly. Once all medication has been injected, you're going to pull out the syringe and remove your hand that has had the skin pulled to one side. Once you have done that, that's going to make the skin return back to normal. It closes up the gap so that the medication cannot follow a track back out of the patient. So the displacement method is used on your IM injections. You do have to aspirate. You would activate and throw away from above into your garbage disposal. Some additional things I want to make sure that we cover: the different sites, the different maximum volumes, the needle sizes. Those are all found on page 805 in your book. Make sure that you have studied these. In the past, when we have actually done checkoffs, we would have each one of you have to pick up the correct size needle, correct size syringe to give that particular medication. But we don't have that option. You have what you have at the house. That's all you can do. For your sub-Q sites, again, they're on page 810, 811. ID sites are on page 810. And one thing I do want to mention, heparin is a little bit different. Heparin is going to be in a Bristeject, some type of pre-made syringe that you cannot alter, you cannot get into, and you're going to give it just like you would a sub-Q. The thing with your heparin is that it's always in the abdomen. It cannot go into these other sub-Q areas, only in the abdomen and the love handle areas. And you are going to make sure that you do not rub this area. You only lightly pat it after you get through because it can cause bruising. And there's always an air bubble that the manufacturer puts into those syringes. That's meant to be there and to be the last thing going in to, again, prevent a track of medication coming back out. Okay? I hope this has helped. I hope you can see better how to give the medications. One thing I do want to tell you about is you only have a filter needle, is the only additional needle that you have in your pack, according to some of the students we've talked to. So before you give your IM injection, you have got to tell us that you changed the needle. When you go through these bottles and draw up your medication, it makes the needle very dull. Now, insulin and tuberculin syringes do not allow you to take the needle off. Those are meant to go ahead and pull up through a vial and give to the patient, but they're very fine. They're made very short, very fine, and usually for smaller amounts, so those are okay. But your larger bore needles that are going to be going through a vial, a rubber stopper, and then into your patient, it will dull them, so you always have to change your needle. So either tell us that at the second step, the second stage where you are setting up your medications, change your needle, or tell us you'll change the needle there, or tell us that you're going to change the needle when you get to your actual location to give it to the patient. But you have to tell us that you're changing the needle so that we know that you're not going to be giving this with a dull, blunt needle. All right, I hope this helps.